Welcome to part 1 of this tutorial. We're creating a water simulation using a Tyflow approach. Amazing. So first things first, we're going to need a terrain. That way we can analyze it and see how water actually interacts with that terrain. So to do this, let's start with some contour lines. Now we already have contour lines modeled up from a previous project, so you can do this with any contour lines. The workflow is very similar, so we begin by importing that in. If you've modeled them up in a foreign software like AutoCAD, we will use import. So file, import, import. Now, if you are using lines or contour lines from a 3ds Max file, you would use merge. But because we are using it from a foreign software, we're using import. Amazing. So locate the contour lines that you want to import. Select that, open, and then click OK. Amazing, that brings in the contour lines. So we can use this to actually create a terrain, which is very simple with 3ds Max. Have that selected, and in the creation panel, we want to change and navigate to compound objects. Amazing. So that gives us a terrain option. And what that will do, that will model up a terrain surface using those contour lines. Amazing. So let's inspect this surface and see what's going on and how it's been modeled up. Press F4 to turn faces on. All right, so we can see there's a lot of messy triangulation, so to speak. If you refer to previous videos, there is a very easy workaround how we can fix this, and that is through the modifier stack and adding in a retopology. IET, retopology. Amazing. So what we want to do is we want to change this surface so it is much cleaner, more evenly divided into different faces, and that is very simple, as we can just type in a designated face count. For the sake of this project, 10,000 faces for a site this large will do. And once you have typed in the desired face count, press compute and 3ds Max will do its thing. Amazing. Wait for that to load. Looking good. See how that is much cleaner and much evenly divided. This may help with the simulation. That way it's easier for the rain particles to be able to understand its collision surface. And also it's just good to have these habits so you are keeping the file very light. So F4, we can see a very smooth modeled surface. Amazing. So for our simulation, we want the rain to stand out. So let's just change that to a gray surface, just so it's easier to analyze with the rain particles. Okay, amazing. So for the simulation, we want rain to be generated from the sky. So to do that, we need to create a plane, and that will act as the rain cloud, so to speak. To do that, go to the creation panel and switch back to standard primitives, and let's model in a plane. Now, importantly, we want the sky to sit within the boundary of our site. So let's switch to a top view. This way we can make sure we are modeling within the confines of our site, as there is no point of rain falling down into no space. Perfect. Navigate back to 3D view, and we can see that it has been modeled onto that Z plane. So switch to the move tool, and we're gonna want this above the site, as rain's gonna fall down onto the site. Right, so this is gonna be the rain cloud, so to speak. Now I like to just keep colors consistent. Do a pale sort of blue as the sky. Awesome. Let's inspect this, F4. Amazing. So we can see that it is divided into 6 different faces. So there's 2 segments here, 1 segment running through there. Now we actually want to adjust that. Sorry, 2 and 3 segments. We want to adjust that because at each of these vertices or intersections of these lines, that is where a rain particle will be generated from. So if we were to do this, we'd only get about not enough droplets to visualize an effective rain simulation. So for this project, let's do something like 100. So that's divided it into 100 faces lengthwise, and then 200 in the other direction. Much better. This way, rain will be generated at each of these points. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have the sky modeled and we have our terrain modeled, now all is left is our water simulation. So like I said at the start of the video, we will be using Tyflow, which is a great tool located in the creation panel again under standard primitives. So we begin by drawing a Tyflow icon. Draw this icon beside the site. Let's move that a bit further away, give the site some space. Amazing. So to create this simulation, we want to make sure we have this drawn into our scene. Go to the modifier tab and click open editor. This will launch a box, our Tyflow scene here, so we can actually create the simulation using different components to create a stack. Very similar to the modifier stack. So let's build this up. Let's just make sure we can see that so we can see what's going on. So first things first, we want to reference in the sky as the sort of birth surface. Birth as in where the raindrops will be birthed from. So drag that into the scene. Amazing. With that clicked, we have this option where it says objects. This way, we can actually see what is getting referenced in. So with that selected in our 3ds Max scene, we want to add selected. Amazing, and it's coming in here. For the sake of the simulation, let's just call this for what it is, which is a sky. Amazing. And you can see that is updated in real time. So with the sky now referenced in, if we zoom in, it will be very hard to see, but we are seeing at each of these vertices there are dots. Small dots, which is shown here in the display. Now this comes in by default, and these are our rain droplets. We want to switch this to geometry. And now you'll see, very slightly, a bit better, that there is in fact rain droplets at each of these intersections. So for the simulation, we want to actually create something that will show rain a lot more effective, a 3D form. So to do that, we will add a shape to the stack, and that is part of these pale cream colors here. Shape, and place that right underneath the birth surface. Amazing. So by default, we can see the shape is a triangle, a 2D triangle, but like I said, we want 3D. So just scroll down to 3D, and it by default will change it to a tetrahedron. We want to change that to a low-res sphere for now. Amazing. So we can see that has reference into our scene as spheres, and for the sake of the simulation and display, let's create just a blue color so it looks like water. Make sure this is blue as well. Perfect. So if you turn off edged faces, you can see that that is the blue that is in the display geometry. And if you turn on edge faces, that is the blue that we changed at the Tyflow. This doesn't matter too much. This is all just for the sake of the display and for visualizing our simulation. That concludes part 1. We have our site, we have our sky, and we have our rain. Please go to part 2 so we can look at making these rain geometries fall so we can make a rainfall simulation. Thank you so much for watching.